Hello, hello, and welcome to the recording of yet another episode of Marketing Scoop, the podcast brought to you by Semrush. This is just the informal hello and welcome before we start the proper podcast recording. This is going to be released, of course, as an audio podcast, and that's where the majority of people will end up consuming this. So if you're not an active podcast listener, why not? I wonder why not. But anyway, if you're not, then I will show you if I get the right screen in front of me here. Bear with me for 1 second. I will show you the screen. So what you can actually do is go to semrush.com/podcast. And you can get all the subscribe links there. You can subscribe on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Overcast, Spotify even. So wherever you like to consume your audio content, I'm sure we will be available to you there as well. So if you're not that audio podcast listener, then please give it a go there as well. You won't get, of course, this funny introduction. You'll just get the proper introduction that I'll do in a couple of minutes time. But audio is just slightly different from video, isn't it? A lot of people prefer to listen to audio when on their travel to works, and so I see there's a few viewers starting to join us. Welcome, great to have you here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about you? Who are you? Where in the world do you happen to be? And what is on your mind at the moment? Not necessarily related to what we are going to be discussing today. Maybe just tell us what you're thinking about just now, and we'll have a little gleam into your situation. So we've got Sanji. Hello, David. Hello, Sanji. We've got the co-host Judith saying hello to everyone in the chat. I'll introduce you to Judith properly just in a second. Who needs podcast without funny introduction? We've got a funny Semrush chat person here as well. So if you are watching us live, please interact in the chat a little bit. And of course, as we're actually sharing a little bit more about our topics and our discussion is going along, if you've got any thoughts or questions in relation to what is being discussed, please share that in the chat and we'll attempt to incorporate that as part of the conversation and maybe even give you a little bit of a shout out as part of the show. So there we go. That just is me getting started and up and running. I think it's just about time that we start the proper introduction. So let's get all lined up and hit the audio record button, which we're doing at the moment. I'll start my fancy intro music and get going with the proper introduction. Marketing Scoop, Season 2, Episode 8. How Garden for Less enhanced their paid search campaigns through keywords from Google Shopping. Broadcasting live in the Semrush YouTube channel, this is Marketing Scoop, the Semrush show that reveals the latest digital marketing trends impacting your marketing strategy. Together with industry experts, we delve into SEO, advertising, and content marketing to uncover the ultimate recipe for digital marketing success. Hi, I'm your host, David Bain. We have a special success story episode this week. Today, me and my co-host, who I will introduce you to just in a second, will be joined by a gentleman who, after finishing his master's in physics, decided to do something a little more relevant to everyday life. And that happens to be being a paid media consultant for the agency Hallam. Welcome to the Scoop, Jonathan Catton.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here.
Hi, Jonathan. Great to have you here. Well, as I said, I'm also joined by regular co-host, the founder of Decabit Consultancy, the triple chalk cookie herself, Judith Lewis.
And you know, physics is very important to chocolate as well. So physics is super important in everyday life.
Yeah, and I was going to say to Jonathan, is physics not relevant to everyday life as well?
I mean, it is. It is up to a certain level. When you're doing like the A-level physics stuff, that's still very relevant to everyday life. By the time you start getting to master's level, it starts getting less and less relevant to every day. When you're dealing with quantum stuff or astronomy and PhD, I was like, no. I want to actually, I want to sell out and get some money.
Yeah, but I want to learn how to move chocolate through quantum levels so that I can just have chocolate manifest wherever I am.
We could probably do some entangling, quantum entanglement stuff. I'm sure we can figure something out. I'll get my best people.
Let's work on that. Yeah, just after this podcast, like 5 minutes, it'll be fine.
So future guests should be warned that I attempt to take a line from somewhere on the internet that people have described themselves as, and I couldn't find anything on Twitter for you, Jonathan. I think it was LinkedIn that I delved into to get that particular line.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to remove that. He says.
I think that was my blog post I did with the University of Nottingham, where they wanted some quotes. I think that was where I got that one from.
So today we're looking at how Garden for Less enhanced their paid search campaigns through keywords from Google Shopping. So for those of you who don't know, who's listening, Jonathan, who are Garden for Less?
So Garden for Less are a UK-based garden products reseller. So think sort of like a home-based type thing that's entirely focused on garden products, but entirely online. So they don't have any location thing, and they don't have any of their own products. They just get in lots of different products. So they'll have Cobra lawnmowers, hose lock, hose pipes, or Jamie Oliver garden furniture. Wonderful. So they just bring in all these kind of stuff, and their big thing really is all about kind of customer service and making sure they're delivering the best things to their customers they possibly can.
But they're not the biggest brand in that kind of area, certainly in the UK. How does a challenger brand like that compete with the massive existing players?
Yeah, so that is the kind of really challenging thing about having these resellers like this. The brand name is just not going to be as well known as all the other brands. So what we really have to do about is kind of really focus on kind of the long tail. And if we just try and just throw money at it in the same way that a lot of the big brands will do, we're always just going to end up not having enough money to sustain the actual challenge. And that's how, for example, Amazon always beats people, right? Is they just have so much money, they'll throw it at you until you go out of business. So with Garden for Less, the strategy we had to take was focusing on that long tail and focusing on those niche keywords that are going to really bring in the efficiency of spend, because they just don't have the budgets to match on pure volume.
Great. And as we mentioned briefly, you've done something rather neat, I think, with keywords researched in and taken from Google Shopping. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so a lot of the ways we will build out a search campaign for a specific brand is what we'll do is we'll have the shopping campaigns running up live first, because they're nice and easy, right? You just put up, I say easy, shopping feeds are never easy, but once you've got them working, they're live and you don't have to do any keyword targeting. What you can then do is look at the search terms that have been triggered by specific brands, and then you can utilize those search terms to really build out your search campaigns. And that's a really, really nice way where we did a lot of our search campaigns through this method, where we all utilize the shopping campaigns first.
Is that something that every e-commerce site should be doing, or are doing, or is that something that is relatively unique and not enough people are actually doing?
I think it's definitely a thing it's not an uncommon thing to do, but it's a highly successful technique to do. And I think it's something that doesn't necessarily get talked about too much. Is always the keyword research tool that Google provides is garbage. The search volumes are always way out of whack. The estimated bids are awful. The only really good way to do it is to actually give Google your money, and then they give you some useful information. So there's two main ways you can do this. Either you can do is over-broaden your targeting to begin with. So you might use like a single word keyword broad match off just the brand name, and you could see what kind of things you're picking up through that, and then you could harvest those search terms and set up your keywords that way. And so we do a bit of that, but primarily the main one we use is the shopping campaigns. So we find that really works well. Actually, just remember, another way you can do a similar kind of thing is using dynamic search ads. So again, you can set up your dynamic search ads, target your whole website. You're going to waste a bit of money, but it's worthwhile money to invest to get that valuable search terms. Will tell you exactly how much it costs to hit that, exactly how many searches that thing has, and then you can really use that to really hyper target your actual campaigns.
So with dynamic search ads, then you don't actually have to know ahead of time what keywords you're looking at targeting and what sections of your website and whatnot. You're relying on Google to give you an assist and help you, just like with the shopping ads.
Yeah, exactly. So you let Google do the auto targeting to begin with, and that's an awful long-term strategy. I can't emphasize this enough. Don't do that for anything more than like a month as your only targeting method. But for a very short period of time to get that really, really valuable information, it can be a worthwhile strategy.
That's really interesting. So is this, David was asking before about e-commerce solutions and companies. Is this something that only larger companies can get involved with? So if you've got a smaller shop or a smaller retail outlet that handles perhaps fewer SKUs or just doesn't have the kind of volume that somebody like Garden for Less would have, are they able to employ similar techniques, or are the volumes just too small?
It's a very good question, actually, and it is a thing you can still utilize with lower volume. It's just going to be less certain. So if you had a lower volume campaign, you're not going to be able to get the scale of data you need to make a completely concrete set of campaigns. So because you're just not going to have it. You're going to have to run it for too long. It's going to be too much of a waste of money. So what I would do instead is you set up a more of a base campaign where you're like, no, this stuff is probably pretty good. There's probably some other stuff that we're not too sure about, but this stuff is probably pretty good. Then you have your shopping campaign running alongside, and you just check on that on a regular basis and go, oh yeah, that's a nice one. I'm going to nick that, and so on and so forth.
So regularly maintain, watch, monitor, move. Excellent.
Exactly. And take more heuristic.
So with Gardens for Less, you got a little bit more complex, I assume, in the way that you were approaching that success. So you did other things besides just looking at shopping ads, or was that sort of the mainstay? And were there any sort of other elements or other clients that you were able to pull learnings in from? Have you done anything exciting that you then pulled into Gardens for Less?
Yeah, so one of the cool things we did actually to sort of bring this approach as well into the shopping campaigns is using Martin. I don't know if you're familiar with the keyword targeting for shopping campaigns technique that was pioneered by Martin Whitgurden.
Should we assume that our listeners might not be universally?
But basically, this is a technique you can use for shopping campaigns, which normally you can't do any sort of keyword-based adjustments in, right? But you're obviously going to have the really broad kind of terminology, like someone just typed in lawnmowers and your ad's shown up versus someone typing in a Cobra XZ379Y lawnmower. And you're going to want to pay more for that second one than you're going to want to pay for the first one. But normally, that's not a thing you can do in shopping. But so this technique, which was, pioneered by Martin Whitgurden over in Germany, who I can't recommend enough for if people want to follow blogs on stuff. He does some really good work. Basically involves, it's somewhat complicated, but basically involves using the priority settings of campaigns and negative keyword lists to enable you to do sort of certain sets of filters. So typically this is often used for branded queries, right? So you would set up a high priority campaign with negative keywords for the brand name, so Cobra, for example, and you set that with low bids. And basically all queries that don't include the word Cobra are going to go into that campaign, and if it includes the word Cobra, it's going to go into the low priority campaign where you set your high bids. So that's a way you can do sort of optimization of your shopping campaigns, including keyword focus. So that's kind of the basic version of this. What we kind of pioneered with Garden for Less and with some of our other clients is a more advanced version of this, where typically you're predefining words that you think are going to be valuable. So you're going, I think when someone uses the word Cobra in their search term for lawnmowers, that's more valuable. But we're very much deciding that kind of arbitrarily. So what we did instead is we have some scripts that automatically run what's called a n-gram analysis. Now, let me go into what's an n-gram analysis, I hear you say.
Here's that.
An n-gram analysis is basically where we take our search terms and we divide them up into every single word and every single sets of pairs of words and triples of words and quad words. And we accumulate the stats for any common iterations of this. So, for example, every time someone uses the word A in their search terms, we can sum up the stats for all of that, and then we can see, okay, when someone uses the word A, that's on average 10% better than the average search term. Okay, you with me so far?
Yeah, I see that a degree in physics is required to do paid search.
So that's our technique for sort of n-gram analysis. That's a reasonably common technique, not necessarily a basic one, but it's fairly well known. What we've done is combine together. So that's often used for like negative keywords, right? So you can see when someone uses the word cheap on average in their search query, that tends to have a lower return on ad spend. So that's one of the common ones that the n-gram analysis really highlights. So what we've done is taken those two techniques of the keyword focus on shopping and the n-gram analysis, and we've combined them together. I'm doing my scholar's cradle here now. And what that enables us to do is basically take every single word we have that's in the search queries, line them up in order of how good they are, and then we divide these priorities. So you can have 3 different priorities. So we'll have the poor performing keywords, the medium performing keywords, and the high performing keywords in 3 separate campaigns. So we can then put 3 separate bids on all of those 3 things using negative keyword lists. And this is a thing that automatically refreshes like every day. And what that basically enables us to do is really fully kind of keyword target and do all the bidding we want to do with keywords through the shopping campaigns without having to manage it in some weirdly overcomplicated way. But I've just described quite a complicated way to do it. But it's all going on in the background through scripts and automation.
Yeah.
So Jonathan, when someone says to you, the future of paid search is AI driven and keywords are dying and not going to be important very soon, what's your reaction?
I still disagree. Like, yes, audiences are really, really important, but keywords, there's so much intent behind a keyword. Like just whether someone says buy or rent, like that means a lot. And I don't see us ever really getting completely beyond keywords. For example, I still utilize a lot of sort of dynamic keyword insertion type stuff in our search ads, even though, again, it's like, you don't need to like completely match up your keywords to what someone's actually searched. But on the other hand, in my experience, people are still just big dumb sheep, and they search for something with I don't know, polka dot dresses, and they've got someone saying, "Oh yeah, we sell dresses," and they've got someone saying, "We sell polka dot dresses." They just get so much more reassured by the thing that tells them what they want to see, and that's really what advertising, especially paid media, is all about. Is you need to be showing people what they want to see. And now, whether that is through keywords, you're trying to work out what they want to see, or whether that's through doing audience and AI that they want to see, who knows? But I dare say any AI algorithm worth its salt is still utilizing keywords. It's not ignoring keywords. But so we're just trying to make sure we're still utilizing keywords to the most extent we possibly can as well, and sort of give Google a bit of a helping hand.
Because, of course, keywords are what people are using to begin with, often to find their way to an ad. Although they're now looking at pushing shopping ads into images, it's still keyword based. You've typed something in order to get where you're going. I did notice that you're utilizing a lot of scripts, and not all of our audience might be familiar with the places that they can go to learn more about scripts. So that I'm not sure that they'll ever be able to emulate quite what you're doing, you and your physics degree. But is there anywhere that our audience could go if, after hearing you and being inspired by you and the success that you've found using scripts, is there anywhere they can go to get more information about using scripts with their PPC accounts?
Yes, absolutely. I'm struggling to think off the top of my head what exactly good places to go. But for example, there's Brain Labs, is an agency based in London who are very well known for licensing a lot of scripts, and they give away a lot of free scripts. And that's often a really good place to start, is take a sort of free script that someone has just given out. I've got one on my blog. Admittedly, I wrote like 2 years ago, and it's pretty rubbish now, but it's there.
It's there. You've written one. It's out there. People might want to use it.
It's there. That one just turns all broad match keywords into broad match modified, because that was a problem we were dealing with a lot then. But essentially, take a free script and just play with it. For the users who don't know, basically the way scripts work is it's a little element in the AdWords interface. So it's in the tools drop-down thing that you probably don't use very much. You can go to a section called scripts. It's alongside automated rules. And basically, you can use JavaScript to basically code in certain things. You can say, for example, okay, I want to set a bid that is the average CPC multiplied by the ROAS divided by a ROAS target. So that's where we often do a basic kind of bidding thing that if we don't want to use fully Google automated stuff, we will use our own sort of bidding script thing that literally it's just a way to do what you would do in an Excel formula, but just does it all online, so we don't have to worry about downloading, doing a macro thing, and then uploading it again.
Does all the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
that I went online at one point, I think a few weeks ago, actually, and I was looking at a Kuzai list of 100 PPC scripts that you should know about, and it wasn't all of them even then, but that's kind of a good starting point.
Yes, that's a great blog. Yeah.
100 seems a little overwhelming, but they do actually break them up like you have into the different functionality that it performs. So you've got all these keyword insights that you've pulled out of the shopping ads that you've been running for Gardens for Less.
Yep.
And then what else were you doing that gave you this success for Gardens for Less? Was there anything interesting or unique, or are there any other tips that you could share with the audience about success stories you've had with other clients of different elements that they might be able to utilize on their PPC campaigns?
Yeah. So one of the other really good things that is always important to try and do is try to integrate with your actual customers' data, your clients' data, or your actual sales data. So, for example, we had another client, an outlet that had a lot of problems with stock level. So they constantly had very changeable stock. They would buy in a bunch and then we'd sell it all. And then, funnily enough, once you sell all the normal sizes of clothing, your conversion rate for the rest of the bits of clothing really plummets. So what we did was work with them to build into the stock level into the shopping feed, so that we could then make sure when the stock level was really poor that we were bidding less. And that's one of the things. You can either do it in an automated solution like we had, because we love our automation. But that's the kind of thing that you can do on a manual basis as well. So you can have get a weekly email or something from your client that is okay, here's our general stock level for these different brands, and then you can go in and go, oh yeah, okay, cool. I can see that this brand has a really poor thing. I'm going to make sure to lower the bids, lower the targets for this kind of client. And it's that kind of integration with the kind of third party or the first party data, I suppose, that can really give you kind of the edge over kind of the bigger brands who are just throwing money at things.
Jonathan, another challenge in helping a brand like Garden for Less is, I assume that it must be very seasonal. So what kind of challenges does that bring, and how do you cope with that?
Yeah, so one of the big problems that having seasonal data brings, or seasonal products, is that they're constantly often either adding new products in or taking new products out. They're changing around the feeds and the products quite often, because they'll be adjusting the prices and such to match the seasonal demand, which means we need to, in theory, keep a very rigorous check on Merchant Center. So quite often what will happen is when they're making these changes, they'll screw something up. And then either maybe the whole shopping feed goes down, or just certain key products may get disapproved, and that can really impact the performance of your campaigns. So again, it's classic. How did we solve this problem? We built a script. But we built some scripts that would basically continuously check the number of products that were in the campaign, in the feed, and alert us if new things were coming in or things had been removed. And that's really, really useful, because as anyone who works in an agency will ever tell you, relying on your clients to tell you when they're adding new products is basically impossible. So again, we built automated tools to make sure that we knew, sometimes even sooner than some of the clients would know, our client contacts would know, that new products have been added. Along with that, what we also do is some long-term seasonal trend analysis. Sorry, just burped. What we will do is look at the last 3 years worth of data and look at the kind of sales that we've had for various different products. And then what we'll do is map it out on a category by category basis and see what kind of trends we can pick out from that, and draw some nice pretty graphs. And then we'll use those graphs to kind of emphasize where we're going to.
Oh.
Okay, I was thinking it was me, but it's not. Jonathan's. Oh, okay, he's back now. Jonathan, we just lost you there for about 20 seconds or so ago, and he's coming in and out, and not sure whether he's here or not.
Oh, it's definitely. I think it's definitely him because he's cutting in and out for me.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, if you can hear me, would you like to try and leave the Hangout and reconnect, possibly? Hopefully, that may assist with the quality of the internet connection. I think he's just going in a second. Perhaps he hasn't heard me.
Oh. Oh, gracious.
Well, this is the
He looks like he's examining something.
Yes,
that's where this degree in physics is going to come in handy again.
Who in the building is eating up all the Wi-Fi?
Someone just started streaming Call of Duty on there.
In 4K.
Yeah. Oh, but it was very interesting what he was going into as far as like looking at stock levels and adjusting things with clients as far as stock levels go.
Yeah,
have we got you back, Jonathan?
I think we're back.
Okay. It sounds like you're back. Yeah, I think the video is struggling very slightly. Would you like to try turning off the video just so we've got the audio only, just so we can record the audio from you just for the remaining 5 minutes or so of the podcast?
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
okay, sorry about that. Sometimes make me don't care how I have no internet.
Okay, no, I think I think that'll be better. For those watching live or watching the YouTube replay, this is a wonderful bonus that you're going to get. I'm going to cut this out of the audio episode later on today. But what we'll try and do, or I'll try and do, is latch together where you finished off with the conversation now. So obviously we're talking a little bit about changeable inventory from a seasonal basis. Would you like to just reverse a minute or two, Jonathan, and just tell us a little bit more about that? Maybe not.
I think he's left and come
try
back
to join again.
Yeah.
We have to do the chocolate drinking game, so I have to say chocolate again so that the chocolate can relate to more shots.
That's all right. I'll cut it out.
That was not an intentional disconnect and reconnect, but
Okay, that's all right. Okay, so essentially, Jonathan, I was just saying we're talking a little bit about changeable inventory, seasonal inventory and trends. So you were talking about identifying on an automated basis what current products were active and available, I guess, on a client's website. Could you just finish off talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, so alongside, as well as automatically detecting what kind of things are working, what things are not, what we can also do a lot is just running sort of every quarter or so, we'll run a full like sort of 3-year analysis of what trends we are seeing within the company. So garment products obviously do very well in the spring. And the client will tell us, oh, spring is a really important time for us, but we don't know exactly what point in spring it starts. And so by pulling out all the data from analytics, running it through sort of some averages, we can sort of see, actually, really, their wellies really kick off on like the first to second week of March. And that way we can prioritize the budget and make sure everything's all set up for that big push we're going to be expecting then.
One other question that I would like to ask you about, we've obviously talked a lot about search and shopping, but I guess if you combine as many effective channels together as possible, you're going to get the maximum ROI for clients. Could you tell us about combining other elements, perhaps something like remarketing as well, to really raise the ROI and maximize success for your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really utilize a lot of display remarketing and sometimes dynamic remarketing. So we basically take the feeds from the website and from the users as they go onto the website, and what we can do is we target them with ads of the products they saw when they came back from the website, and we see them all over the internet. And we find that really, really works quite well. And we also use it a lot for kind of large-scale digital acquisition. So for another client we had, Wavemaker, we ran some really, really, really huge sort of digital acquisition campaigns through display, where we spent quite a lot of the client's money, but we got really, really a lot of stuff back. And what we find now is as there's a greater emphasis on attribution, more and more people are seeing more and more of display's value. With a last click attribution, display looks awful. Even remarketing at the best of times looks okay. But when you're looking at the attribution, when you're looking at the full customer journey, that's where we see display really coming into its own. And we see a lot of really good effects for our clients once we take attribution into account.
Could you talk a little bit about best practice in retargeting? For instance, where would you define someone as being interested in a product but not having obviously made the purchase decision? Is it when they add a product to a cart but don't continue and actually make the purchase? And then how long would you continue to do the remarketing, and how aggressively for?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So what we do is a sort of tiered approach. So first of all, we have all the people who didn't bounce, people who actually did anything to the website. That's like our most broad audience that we'll have. Then we'll have a higher level of interest, so people who've gone through 5 or 6 pages or so, or spent like greater than a minute on the website. Then we'll go to the more people, like the people who actually put stuff in their cart, and then full to the people who actually got all the way to the checkout but then just didn't quite buy. And what we'll do is we'll have all these different lists, and we will basically move people through them. So if someone didn't buy something for like they got all the way to the end but didn't buy, for the next 7 days, we're going to hound them. Then 7 days after that, they're going to drop down to that. We're going to basically take them out of that list. We're going to drop them down to just like kind of the same kind of list as the people who added some to their cart. And we're going to go, hey, have a special offer. Maybe you want some of this. Then we go into the more lesser things, the people who haven't necessarily express any specific interest in a specific product, and we just put some more sort of generic branding and kind of remarketing at that. So basically, as you've just not bought something, we're going to hound you. The longer and longer it goes from the last time when you nearly just bought something, we'll hound you less and less and less, and use less and less aggressive messaging, and more just kind of generic, hey, we still exist, maybe come visit us.
I think Judith quite liked the idea of hounding you.
There are shops that follow me around the internet that mean that I can't show my client my screen, and it's got to do with, ladies' undergarments.
Yeah, we have one of those clients as well with men's undergarments. It's always fun.
It's when they start following you around after you've made the purchase that is when it gets fairly frustrating.
Interesting point on that, actually. A lot of the times that is due to poorly executed remarketing, but not always, because there's some interesting statistical trends. So, for example, say you've bought a fridge, right? Most people, they've bought a fridge, they go, why am I still getting fridge adverts? Right? I've just bought a fridge. I'm never going to buy a fridge again. But if you think of actually at times when you buy a fridge, and then your fridge is actually too big to fit in the gap it needs to go into, it's too tall, it's too heavy, it doesn't fit in your thing, it's not the right kind of fridge, it's the wrong color. You tried to surprise your wife, but you got it in the wrong color and you screwed up again. And then you go, okay, I'll return that. Now I need a new fridge. And actually the rate of people, that is a higher chance. If you get someone just after they bought a fridge, there's a higher chance that they're going to buy a new fridge than someone who has expressed no interest in fridges whatsoever. So although those kind of marketing ads after you bought something can be really, really annoying, it's a part of it can often be part of a deliberate strategy to, yes, we're going to pick up a bunch of like crap here who aren't interested, but there's that small margin that are going to be really interested, and we're hitting them at exactly the right time, and it's worth it for them.
I love the idea of you wanted to surprise your wife with a fridge, but got it in the wrong color. Oh boy, that is not, no. Please, if my husband is listening to this podcast, never buy me a fridge as a surprise.
Yeah. Always consult your partners on anything color related.
I reckon that just about takes us to the end of episode 8 of season 2. Just time for an actionable tip from Jonathan.
Done it again.
Okay, I'm gonna edit that out actually. Just time for an actionable tip from Jonathan, related to or not necessarily related to what we've been discussing so far. So, Jonathan, what is your actionable tip?
All right. So although I've talked about a lot about some really advanced techniques, some lots of automation and stuff, and you'll hear that from every single blog post and every single podcast because it's interesting to talk about. The number one most important thing is to get the fundamentals right. Have a nice, precisely targeted keyword, have some ads that are relevant to that keyword, and you will see success. because that's what a lot of the big people don't do. Is they do what we do. We build big giant automation things, and then you get a bit less generic. If you're small, build specific, build curated, and you'll see a lot of good success for that.
Wonderful stuff. And you can find Jonathan over at hallaminternet.com. Also with us today is my co-host, Judith. Judith, what are your final thoughts on today's discussion?
I think in PPC, exactly as Jonathan has already said, get the fundamentals right, or it's just not worth running. But also don't be afraid to experiment with scripts. There are some very innocuous scripts if you look them up either at Brain Labs, as Jonathan said, or at Kuzai, and just have an experiment. There are some that will just look at how keywords are performing, and then you can manually make the changes yourself. So don't be afraid. Just give it a go.
Superb stuff. You can, of course, find Judith over at decapitconsultancy.com. I've been your host, David Bain. You can also find me over at digitalmarketingradio.com. We will be recording the next episode, Season 2, Episode 9 of The Scoop, at the same time, same place, the Semrush YouTube channel, on Wednesday, the 28th of November, when my guests are scheduled to be Sam Noble and Joe Wondorowski for a paid advertising metrics special. But it won't be a deja vu. It'll be an incredible conversation just like today's one, I'm sure. In the meantime, thank you not only to Jonathan for this episode, but also to Judith and to you, dear listener, for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, subscribe to the audio podcast if you're not already. Just head over to searchmarketingscoop.com or semrush.com/podcast. Both links work at the moment. You can find the link there to your preferred Apple or Android flavor of podcatcher. If you're already a Marketing Scoop audio podcast subscriber, tell us what you think. A rating and review inside your podcast app would be very much appreciated. But until next time, be fantabulous and do one thing that's good. Adios.